A knife-wielding Muslim man who attacked a free speech, anti-Islamist, anti-extremism protester who was burning a Quran outside the Turkish embassy has been let off, in my opinion, with a suspended sentence and community service hours. Musa Kaldri, who slashed at Hamit Kuskun with a blade in broad daylight, gets a measly 20-week suspended sentence. No jail time, just a bit of unpaid work and a few rehabilitation sessions. Meanwhile, Kuskun, who dared to exercise his free speech, is dragged through the courts, labelled a hate monger and treated like a criminal for burning a book. The judge found Kuskun guilty of a religiously aggravated public order offence in June, noting his actions in burning the Quran were highly provocative and that he was motivated, at least in part, by hatred of Muslims. But in my view, it's very clear what the conviction of Kuskun meant. The judiciary seems to want to introduce blasphemy laws with no vote in Parliament through the back door, specifically for Muslims. The attacker, Mr. Kadri, didn't just lose his temper, nor did he call the police. He came flying out of a building, threatening to kill Mr. Kuskun, shouting, "I'm coming back and I'm going to kill you now." He then went to grab a knife and slashed at Mr. Kuskun repeatedly. He then proceeded to chase him down the street in Knightsbridge, where Mr. Kuskun fell to the floor and was repeatedly kicked and then spat on. And what do you think Mr. Kadri's reasoning for this was? Well, he told police, "I want to protect my religion." Well, the judge told Mr. Kadri the knife could have caused serious injury. Even if you never had any intention to stab him, your actions were wholly unacceptable. When armed with a knife, there is always a possibility of serious injury or death. Well, after hearing that, you'd expect a tough line and punishment for Mr. Kadri, wouldn't you? No. The judge saw no reason for an immediate custodial sentence, having observed the mitigation and accepted his remorse. So there you have it. A dangerous, knife-wielding thug who threatens to kill somebody, violently attacks them in public, all because they were offended, now will not see a minute behind bars. Just remember, Lucy Connolly only wrote a tweet. Yes, a tweet. Lord Toby Young of the Free Speech Union nailed it. He said this: "This sends a green light to any Muslim who wants to enforce an Islamic blasphemy by taking the law into their own hands." Well, at his trial, Mr. Kuskun argued that he had been protesting against the Islamist government of Erdogan, the president of Turkey, not individual followers of Islam. And the judge ordered Kuskun, who fled his home country of Turkey 2.5 years ago to escape persecution, to pay a fine of only £240 with a statutory charge of £96. But let's talk about the knife crime epidemic while we're at it, shall we? Because the judge in Mr. Kadri's case had previously called the use of blades a curse on our communities. Yet here we are, letting a man who wielded a knife in a vicious attack stroll out of court without a day behind bars. Over 50,000 knife crime offences were recorded in England and Wales last year. And what do rulings like this show? They show that our spineless justice system is the most dangerous part of our society. And this ruling, in my very strong opinion, is the most dangerous ruling I've seen in Britain to date. And do you know what I'm worried about coming next? I'm sure you are at home too. Islamophobia laws. An advisor to the Attorney General has already warned a definition of Islamophobia could deter police from investigating Muslim offenders. Think about the impact it could have on activist judges and lawyers. There must be proper punishment for those who decide to attack another person with a knife in our country, regardless of whether they are offended or not. It doesn't matter. Free speech and the right to peaceful protest, no matter how offensive it is to your religion or to your values, is part of British society and our culture.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Well, I want to get the thoughts of my panel on this. The Director of Popular Conservatism, Mark Littlewood, businessman and political activist, Adam Brooks, and journalist, Nina Mishkov. Thank you all very much. Now, Mark, this case really shocked me because not only was it a free speech case, I believe it was also a blasphemy case, and it was also a case on knife crime. It was three things rolled into one. And no matter, in my opinion, whether or not you are offended by somebody, there is never an excuse to use a knife to attack somebody.
Yeah, I mean, one way of looking at it is this, isn't it? We've got, in rough numbers, 100,000 people behind bars in Britain. It seems to me absolutely amazing this chap isn't one of them. Violent crime should be typically what we're putting people in prison for. You mentioned Lucy Connolly's tweet. That was 31 months. I know she didn't serve all of it in prison. And I think a useful thought experiment could be this. Imagine instead of that being burning the Quran outside the Turkish embassy, it had been an incident at a football match and somebody from the red team burnt the blue team's shirt and a fan of the blue team got a knife out and that happened. One suspects the custodial sentence would be automatic, isn't it? I mean, it's impossible to know for sure, but it just doesn't smell right. And if you can behave like that and get, what did you say, a few £100 fine and a suspended sentence, the legal system and the criminal justice system in this country has gone potty. If that is not an imprisonable crime, I don't know what is. Yeah,
Adam, you're a knife crime campaigner, aren't you? You've been looking after this issue for a very, very long time. And this is one of the things that really got me about it. When you see the footage of how he's wielding the knife and slashing at this man who's on the floor, defenceless, by the way, you ask yourself, are we now sending a message out to people who want to wield knives that they can do this as long as they're offended religiously?
100%. Because only a few months ago, myself and Norman Brennan, who's a former police officer, we had a petition for 5-year mandatory sentences for carrying a knife in public without good reason, lawful reason. Now, this man, under our law, and I believe Lee Anderson is on board with what we're saying as well, under reform, that man would go straight to jail for 5 years, and rightfully so. Lucy Connolly is not a danger to society. She made a mistake, she broke a law, but she could have got away with a community order. She's no danger to anyone in her street or in society. This man clearly is. If the guy that he was swinging that knife at had been better at fighting back, someone would have been stabbed there, trust me. It was the fact that he went down, but then we see repeated kicks, one to the head, I believe. That can be fatal, a kick to the head. He spat on him. So we've got spitting, we've got kicking, we've got threats to kill, and we've got a man wielding a large knife. he should be behind bars for at least 5 to 7 years, in my opinion. There is no justification for this sentence at all. And as you say, it sets a dangerous precedent. Young people, youths, are going to be looking at that and thinking, right, if I get in trouble, I'm going to say I'm a Muslim, or if I am a Muslim, I'm going to hide behind that excuse. That is a dangerous precedent that's just been sent, and this country is worse for it.
Nina, one of my bigger concerns, of course, is this blasphemy law through the back door. This is what many in the Conservative Party are out saying today as well. And it does seem to feel that way. We did get rid of blasphemy laws in this country. And I don't care what religion you are. You know, members of my immediate family are Muslims. And I wouldn't ever allow them to get away with an excuse like, I'm only wielding a knife because you offended me because of my religion. I think that is a really terrible defence. But it seems to me this is a very, very weak sentencing from the judiciary. What do you make of it all?
I agree. I think that it proved to me once again that religion is at the heart of almost every problem that we have today. It has been since the dawn of time. So, and I am not at all religious. I was christened a Catholic. But dumped that when I was in my teens, and I have seen no reason to go back to it. If people want to pray and do whatever, that's up to them. But I just don't buy into it. I reckon that this guy had a knife, and therefore he should have had some kind of... This was a very lenient sentence, put it that way. I don't agree with Adam that it's 5 to 7 years. It may also, but I don't think that's far too long. But I also you think of the practicalities and the pragmatic side of things. Our prisons are full. So is there a place for him somewhere? I mean, that's the point.
Nina, just to ask you, because this is a question many people will be asking at home. Do you think it was because of his religion, because he was a Muslim, that he got off lightly because there's a bit of pussyfooting around this issue?
No, I don't see that. I don't see that it is at all. I mean, if you were to say burning a Christian Bible, but that hasn't happened. So we're making a supposition, and to prejudge that is to expose a prejudice.
Yeah, Mark, what do you make of this sort of backdoor blasphemy law stuff? Because that's where my concern is here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're right to be sensitive to that. I think you're right to point it out. It's hard to know for sure, isn't it? So I think you've got to look at the crime on its merits, or rather its demerits, and work out what you think should happen. I just looked up the statistics. There's about 134,000 sentences for violence against the person each year. Those figures are from 3 years ago, but I don't think they've changed much. That's about 20% of all offenders sentenced, and about 40% of those go straight into custody. How is that not in the worst 40%? That's surely in the worst 40% of violent crimes.
As well, isn't it? It's so public. It's scary.
I mean, I've seen the whole video. It must be in the top 40%. So that gets one scratching one's head and saying, well, what was the exceptional nature of this case? And then you start to think the exceptional nature of this case is it involves Islam and the Quran. And you start to reach that conclusion, don't you?
Let's also remember last year, the summer riots, there was footage of a police officer telling local Muslim men to go and put their weapons back in the mosque. Now, again, if that was the other side, that was the counter-protest. If that was the side of the riot, there is no way that a police officer would say to Englishmen or Christian or whatever, go
how do you know? They could have said,
put your weapons back in your houses or whatever. That's not going to happen.
How do you know? They could say, go home and take that with you.
Get in the real world.
No, come on. I mean, I don't see why not.
People who are equipped with dangerous weapons.
But then you say, well, so what weapons did the Muslims have?
Well, I can't believe it was weapons.
Well, you don't know.
Well,
so you're
police officer said take your weapons.
And did they take their weapons back if there were weapons?
I believe so.
And was that a good thing to do then?
No, they should have been arrested.
Well,
exactly.
Well, you don't know what the weapons were. You don't know what the weapons were.
There's weaponry on a street, isn't it? I mean, I think that what's gone wrong.
Aren't we talking about knives there?
What's gone wrong here is the instinctive British sense of politeness, which we should preserve, that we generally don't want to go around crassly offending people's religious
I don't
predilections
think any book,
or political
religious book
views.
should be burned.
You know, we're generally a very, very polite bunch of people. But that needs to be policed socially, in society, with people saying, oh, that went a bit far, you really shouldn't have said that. It can't be policed through the law. And we have allowed our intrinsic polite attitudes to basically lead us into a scenario where offending people becomes illegal.
But the thing is, I don't think any blasphemy laws are coming in at all. There's a completely retrograde state taking us back to the Middle Ages. It would be utter nonsense if they were.
I think once reform gets in, they've got to look at serious violent crimes have to do the time now, and things like low-level fraud and that maybe a tag. We need to buy more tags, and the low-level criminals out of prison, and the harmful ones, the violent ones,
keep religion out of it.
Put them in. Yeah, religion for me, you know.
A little bit of consensus on the panel, I think, in many respects on this case. And I just think people will be scratching their heads over this at home, going, "How on earth has that person got away? Mr. Casual got away with such a lenient sentence?" It's bonkers to me. But anyway, in his ruling on Hamit to Josh Kuhn's case, Judge McGarver said he did not view the case as an attempt to expand blasphemy laws. He said that burning a religious book, although offensive to some, was not necessarily disorderly, but that other factors, including Islamophobic comments, were made in police interviews, made it so on this occasion. All right, well,